This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the thing, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 113. And tonight I am joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hi there.
So I had like a momentary lapse there where I forgot what the intro was to our show. So maybe that doesn't bode well for the evening.
Sounds boy howdy.
Yeah.
That was a tired bell.
Okay, so literally, I think I've done that same intro every single time since the first one. And all of a sudden I just froze. So yeah, that's the thing.
I was about to say, and when I have done it, I have also done that exact same intro, so.
Yep. Okay, so let's get to the festivities. This week, the Twitters have been abuzz with, the fact that J.K. Rowling's, I don't know if it was this week or last week, she announced the Ilvermorny houses, that being the American School of Wizarding. And the four houses are Thunderbird, Puckwudgie, Wampus, and Horned Serpent, that I keep wanting to call Horned God.
That's a different thing.
That's a very different thing.
Yeah.
And it came with a rather cute, fairly lengthy backstory on the founding of the school.
So it's kind of relit the fire of everybody talking about what houses they would be in. And they also changed the algorithm somehow on the original Hogwarts sorting hat quiz. So I took it, and I didn't really start the madness. People were talking about it all along, but amongst our little group, the discussion started with me taking mine and posting my results, and I ended up getting Thunderbird and Gryffindor, and I was kind of surprised on Gryffindor because I always just assumed I'd get sorted into Hufflepuff.
You are the only person who is surprised you are in Gryffindor.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one else was surprised at all.
Yeah. So that started me incorrectly trying to place people in houses. And I was way off, I think, on most of them. Like, I either had Grace pegged as Slytherin or Ravenclaw, and I wasn't sure which way.
I was not in any sort of doubt at all.
I was dead wrong on Kodra.
Yeah, which...
Because, like, I totally would have put Kodra in Hufflepuff or Gryffindor. Because Kodra is one of the most gregarious people I know. Which totally puts him leaning towards Hufflepuff to me.
I'm a Ravenclaw through and through.
No, is about as Ravenclaw as possible to get. Also, I think that may say more about your exposure to gregarious people than
maybe.
Himself.
But at the same time, Kodra is sometimes super brave, so...
Like, I have no problem meeting new people, and, I will push myself to do that because I'm not super comfortable, but no, what I care about is learning stuff and knowing stuff. That is more of a core part of my identity.
And, I totally thought Tam was probably Slytherin.
The Sorting Hat gave up on me.
Really?
Serious? If you're really close, it'll give you a thing that's well, you could be either of these. Pick which one you like the most. I got 3 of them. P.S. Not Hufflepuff. Sadly. I actually like Hufflepuff a lot. A lot of my friends are Hufflepuff, but not me. I am not that.
There was less uncertainty about where I ended up. I just ended up in Slytherin.
Look, we got to It's great.
I wasn't sure if it would be Slytherin or Ravenclaw with you.
Yeah.
Look, I don't usually claim to be a nice person, and I guess the Sorting Hat agreed.
Okay. So this is the other part of the conversation we're going to have. Because what I actually get really frustrated with the houses of, Hogwarts. Because I don't like the concept of, because you're ambitious, you're evil. But that's how it gets portrayed in the books.
Ambition, cunning, resourcefulness, determination.
Yeah, but that's not how it's portrayed in the books.
It's true.
Well,
yeah.
And I kind of want to know what Slytherin was like before Voldemort.
Like,
Merlin was a
Slytherin
Slytherin.
seems like a house that I could easily have been sorted into, but I would never quite feel comfortable there. So, I mean, I'm obviously a Ravenclaw. I want to know all the things.
Well, and what's weird about it, though, is like, okay, so Slytherin became the House of Dark Wizards thanks to Voldemort, but, like, what about before? Like, I get the impression that it was a perfectly reasonable house to be a member of.
It was a very noble house.
The thing this page continually points out on the Slytherin page is that Merlin was a Slytherin.
Yep.
Is that what?
Merlin was a Slytherin.
Yeah. Like, it was a super noble house. There's a reason that they're, like, Gryffindor rivals. Not because of the good and evil battle, but because they're the two most noble houses.
But, yeah, and in the books, it's... I am unimpressed with that crop of Slytherin, let me put it that way.
Yeah. Although,
because,
notably, in the books also mention numerous times, wow, the current crop of Slytherin is really disappointing.
It's really, yeah.
Like, they're really disappointing and don't display the traits that their house is supposed to. And they mention this, like, 5 or 6 times throughout the series.
Interesting. I actually don't remember that being mentioned, but I might have been...
It comes up a couple of times. There's kind of, at least I got the impression.
Well, at least McGonagall says it. Like, I know at least one time McGonagall says it.
Yeah, McGonagall mentions it at least twice. It's the reason they don't win the House Cup. Although that's sort of silliness by itself.
Yeah,
But
the House Cup is kind of some silliness going on, especially in books 1 and 2.
Yes.
Let's come up with an excuse to give it to Gryffindor.
Yes.
But yeah, I think Voldemort kind of spoiled Slytherin for a little bit. Was the implication that I got.
Yeah, but it just always made me kind of uncomfortable with like that, because that is the implication, but we never actually see that that's actually the case.
I mean, we see Slughorn later on, that he's, overall a decent guy.
I mean, and you think about it, for whatever period of time after he, became the worst evil in the wizarding world, like, if you were ambitious and wanted to understand things and resourceful and you got put in the sorting hat, you would be sitting there going, no, I don't want to be Slytherin, I don't want to be Slytherin, like, I don't want to be associated with that.
yeah. And you get sorted
Exactly.
into something else.
Yeah.
Which is incidentally the other phenomenon that's mentioned is like that house has probably gotten screwed over because of Voldemort giving it a bad reputation. It's only been like 10 years since Voldemort anyway.
Yeah.
Like they're still going to have that tarnished reputation.
Well, like the Sorting Hat tells Harry, like, he doesn't have to be something that he doesn't want to be. So if he really wants to be a different house, he can be. So it makes me wonder how many people chose that.
Yeah, how many people were like, please don't sort me Slytherin, please don't sort me Slytherin, even if they would have fit their concept.
It's also worth noting, and I don't know if this is true, like the other problem is while like ambition is definitely the thing that gets played up because that's actually a relatively noble trait to have. What really sets me on edge is like you don't really see any, like, it's always the purebloods that are there, and you don't see many of the people who, like, probably for good reason the Sorting Hat doesn't put Muggleborns there.
Well, I mean, that's
right.
That's actually something that's what, when McGonagall talks about it, that's actually something she comments on. I'll have to find that bit, but yeah, she talks for a little bit about how the house's reputation has kind of ruined it. I think it's very interesting that what's this called? That the new school is basically founded by a Slytherin descendant. Mm-hmm. The story makes a little short blurb about it. Makes quite a point of that.
Yeah, I kind of would like to see some fiction in the Hogwarts part of the world, the I guess Scottish part of the world, when Slytherin House isn't just a complete train wreck. Because it really unbalances the whole, like, it unbalances the school, and, like, I guess that's a way of telling an easier story, but I think there's a more interesting story to tell when, like, you don't associate the good guys and the bad guys based on what house they are belonging to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first book was a boy's own story. It wasn't meant to be anything complicated and
sure
involved,
and
so it's not surprising that it started out with Slytherin are the bad house, Gryffindor are the good house, and she kind of had to go back later and kind of shift both of them a little, try and make it a little less blatant and say that, well, Slytherin's not the bad house, it's just there are some bad Slytherins now, and Gryffindor's had its bad wizards too.
Well, I mean, nobody is going to purposely be the House of Dark Wizards.
Yeah, well,
at least
they're
for
just
public.
ambitious and misunderstood.
Yes,
it happens a lot.
They're the clever ones.
There's a lot of fiction where ambition is not considered a good trait.
Sure. Okay. So Thalen hasn't said what house he got sorted in.
Because I just now took the quiz.
Okay.
I am a Hufflepuff.
Yes.
And
I'm not surprised.
My immediate thought was really, but then I thought about it a little more and looked at the description. I was like, no, that's right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right.
You were absolutely a honey badger, Thalen.
We don't shoot our mouths off, but cross us at your peril. We will protect ourselves, our friends, and our families against all comers. Yeah, that's...
I really like the House Hufflepuff. I also think House Hufflepuff got the raw end of the deal in the literature.
Yeah, it mostly got ignored.
Like...
House of nothing special.
Yeah.
House also ran.
Like, that's how it was constantly portrayed. And again, because it wasn't a story that... It was a story that was focused on a very small number of characters, you didn't get to, like... You didn't really get to see any character who was Hufflepuff. Like...
Cedric is the big one.
You got to see Cedric.
Cedric wasn't Hufflepuff. Cedric was...
He was Hufflepuff.
Really?
Hufflepuff.
I thought Cedric was Gryffindor.
Nope.
I mean, it's easy to confuse that since he's introduced mostly for the purpose of the end of book 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is he's the competitor in the he's the real competitor in the Triwizard Tournament.
Yeah.
Hardy har har har.
And he's secretly a vampire. No, wait.
And so the only character from Ravenclaw that you really spend any amount of time with is Luna.
Who's awesome.
Love good.
Who's awesome,
who's
but
amazing,
also, like,
also a little crazy.
Completely ostracized by her house.
Well, because she thinks all these crazy things, most of which turn out
most
to
of
be
which
correct.
are true.
And the problem is back to what Kodra said, is like during the course of this story, other than wizards from a different age bracket, we don't run into any decent human beings that are Slytherin.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of a single one.
No, none of the students in Harry's year are in Slytherins are good. None of them.
Not even any of the students that are in Slytherin that he encounters outside of that year.
Right.
True.
Anyone that's in Hogwarts that we encounter as part of the story that is Slytherin is horrible.
At best, they're jerks. That's like the absolute best that any of them get portrayed as.
And, like, jerks who are able to break the rules without getting in trouble for it. Because they have a head of house that just constantly protects them from any sort of recrimination.
Which is really rough, given how often McGonagall comes down on Gryffindor.
No, absolutely. McGonagall is very much about doing what's right, and Snape is very much about making sure that his snakes are protected.
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Gryffindor is about, honor and doing the correct thing. So
yes, they are the good house, whereas Slytherin is the evil house.
So McGonagall gets angry at them when they don't, comport themselves correctly for Gryffindors. Slytherin is about being ambitious and doing the clever thing, whether it's actually, the good thing. So, if they're comporting themselves as proper Slytherins, Snape doesn't have any problem with that.
I would be more interested if I felt that Slytherin's activities were clever.
Yeah.
We do have Crab and Goyle. Come on.
Yes, most of what we see tends to be less clever and more
bullying.
Yeah,
privileged bullying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's part of like Kodra, like what we were talking about earlier. Rowling is an excellent storyteller.
Yes.
She is an evocative world builder, but she's not a very good world builder.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing is Slytherin is very much the house of privilege, and the characters in Gryffindor that we really see and follow the whole time are the exact opposite of that.
Except it doesn't really, I mean, it also is very weird because it doesn't make sense that Harry isn't a character of privilege. Like, to the point where he is the chosen one, it's kind of...
He is, but then it's...
There are so many ways that they contrive him not to be privileged.
Well, and his life prior to Hogwarts was so awful that he's like incapable of truly realizing the privilege that he now has.
Well, I mean, it's
trying to take advantage of it.
It's helped that his summers are also equally awful.
Yeah.
What was it? I think it was book 5, which was the Harry is an asshole book. Like, all throughout the book were ways he was being an asshole to all of his friends.
Yes.
Which, sounds like puberty to me.
Yeah.
Shockingly accurate. Shockingly accurate.
That's what teenagers are like.
Interesting to note that, well, there's a second chance now, because there are 4 new houses in a different school.
I'm very excited about this.
I'm excited and skeptical about this.
I have some mixed feelings about this.
So my big mixed feelings are the fact that apparently the American houses are like McCarthy era, considering that we are apparently even worse to non-magic people than the English houses.
Yeah.
Everything around Ilvermorny seems to simultaneously... It seems to either be, let's pull things from Native American lore, or let's pull things from, like, post 9/11 American security stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so basically, in the background of this story, something happens where someone from Ilvermorny tells a non-magic person where the house is, and it gets out. And because of this, they invoke, I forget what it's called, but it's basically a law that magic people cannot consort at all with non-magic people.
What? Weird.
Yes.
It's interesting because I've only read the, founding of the house.
That's all I've read so far, too.
And the house is founded by a couple, one of whom is a wizard and one of whom does not have any magic powers. And, it goes on to describe how the house is, very egalitarian and one of the least elitist of the magic
right.
schools.
And it's totally like that, from what I understand, until basically it's the equivalent of Hogwarts being found out and then everyone knowing where it is.
Ah.
So they pass these laws that basically separate magic and non-magic people, and they can't consort across it. And in the time of the movie, this law has been repealed, but only recently.
What movie is this?
Fantastical Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Wait, so what timeline is that?
It's pre Harry Potter because it's following Newt Scamander.
Did we have that conversation where J.K. Rowling is an evocative world builder, but not a very good one? So non-magical people in America know that magic exists.
I'm not sure to what level it got out, but I know there's a sequence of events that happened where basically this non-magic person told people about how to get into the house, like where it was, and
I'm sure it got dealt with. I mean, there are, memory charms and all sorts of stuff, but
because of the risk of exposure, they go total opposite and sever the two completely.
Oh, okay. So it's not like...
No, it's not like the whole world knows that...
actually knew that magic existed for a time.
Right, no.
Okay,
well, like a handful of non-magic people knew it existed.
They clamped down real quick.
Right, they clamped down in I don't know, the bits that I had read made it seem like it's almost a Red Scare McCarthy type thing of, accusing people of consorting with non-magic people.
So it looks like the new movie is set in 1926.
Yeah, so, 60 years before? 70?
70. Yeah,
I don't actually know when the
out.
original Harry Potter is set.
The original Harry Potter is 1991.
So wow, yeah, it's before that and before Voldemort.
It's before Voldemort. Hell, it's before Grindelwald.
Well before Voldemort. Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe young Dumbledore will make a cameo in this as
young
jerk-ass Dumbledore.
Young Dumbledore and Grindelwald, because both of those guys are on the same side at this point.
I mean, I don't know why they would be in New York, but
probably wouldn't be. But I mean, that's the right time frame. Maybe they're taking a romantic vacation.
It's possible.
It'll be interesting. I mean, I'm all about more Harry Potter universe stuff.
I'm all about more Harry Potter storytelling. I was curious, Grace, you also mentioned mixed feelings. I'm curious if they're the same as mine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have mixed feelings. There's some uncomfortable cultural appropriation things going on with the new houses, and that I'm not really cool with.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I want to have more stories to read in that universe, but I don't want them to be, I don't know, stories that make me cringe, I guess, would be nice.
Yeah.
So, I'm just I am sort of skeptical at this point, and there's been a few sort of missteps up to now, with those houses, and if things were sort of acknowledged and corrected, and then that could be fine and everyone could move forward. But I don't know what the likelihood of that is. And it's sort of frustrating. It's the situation where you could tell a really amazing story about, this school and these houses, and it would still have sort of this shadow of this looming over it, even if the stories didn't touch any of the details that I am not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some notable issues of Native American cultural appropriation in this new stuff, and it's problematic.
There's that, and there's the size problem, just the logistic size problem, because you've got Hogwarts, which services, as far as I'm given to understand, the English-speaking part of Europe, and Ilvermorny that services North America?
Really?
Maybe it has satellite campuses?
There's no description of any other school in the US or anywhere else in North America.
Well, you know how Americans are. They're probably homeschooled.
Wow.
Probably not in 1920s, but yeah, sure.
Oh, wow.
Listen, we don't talk about wizarding populations because it doesn't make sense. There are 40 students in Harry's year? You can't have a sustainable population with a generation of 40 children?
Well, or even more so, if they're that small, I mean, I hate to go here, but there'd be a lot of inbreeding in the wizard population.
Well, I mean, they talk about wizards being born to entirely non-magical families.
Like Hermione.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But that's also part of the 40 kids that attend Hogwarts. So if your magical population is 40, I'm still saying that's not sustainable. And they're also the minority.
So yeah, Harry Potter definitely, there's some problems in this world building.
There is apparently a theory that, the class sizes used to be bigger before Voldemort murdered a lot of people.
Yeah. Huh, okay. So there were... Oh no, that's 2014. Hold on.
Trying to pull some statistics from the UK.
Yeah, I figure I'll look up how many births were there in, I guess it wouldn't be 1990, it would be 1980.
1980.
Well, okay, I can't get you that number, but I can give you 1990, which is a little under 800,000. So, there's only 0.00005. So call it 0.005% is the wizard population.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Thalen's theory of a lot of people died.
1 in 20,000 people is 1 in 20,000 people is magical. And it would explain why they were able to stay hidden for so long. Although it brings into serious question some of the whole pureblood philosophy.
You don't say. But so if you think about it though, of the 40 that there are, I think there were only, honestly, the only one who I'm pretty sure is named as a Muggleborn is Hermione. I know there's another, I think Dean Thomas was originally thought to be a Muggleborn, but then is revealed that his mother was secretly a witch all along.
Look, they don't really talk about any students other than,
You don't say.
Yeah, they really don't.
I mean, I have dived pretty deeply into the lore of that year, so it seems like most of the students come from a pair of magical parents. 1 or 2 magical parents. Which definitely leads me to the inbreeding theory.
To the what?
The fact that magical Europe would be incredibly inbred if most of them are getting married to other magical people.
Well, see, that works. That actually works really well with the Voldemort killed a whole bunch of people theory, because mostly he would have killed the people that were willing to interact with Muggles.
Yeah.
It is
okay
consistent in that sense.
That was a long sequence.
I have strong feelings about Harry Potter.
And we probably still have more to say.
I still have strong feelings about Harry Potter.
We could probably do an entire episode just about Harry Potter.
We do not need to do
difficult.
A whole episode just about Harry Potter.
At least not until the movie comes out.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen the regular Harry Potter movies.
I feel like, as a sort of closing thought, I feel like Harry, especially having read it twice, it is so perfectly constructed for its audience.
Yes.
That it has real trouble connecting with an audience that either is not in a position to see what it's doing, or is too far removed from it to get the same sense.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is why I had a hard time getting into Harry Potter in the first place, because I came to it I was in grad school when I started reading those books, so I was an old person.
I was also an old person when I read them.
Man, I hated those first couple books. I was like, this is crap. I don't like it. Why do people like it so much? And then I made myself keep reading it and figured it out.
I was the perfect age for it about mid-series.
I watched the first movie, and then I read all the books.
Yeah. It is a super compellingly evocative world.
Yeah.
It just doesn't stand up to the kind of focused critique that somebody outside of, being a tween/early teenager is going to apply to it.
I came at it from a completely different angle. I found some fan fiction that I liked of it, and then decided to read the source material, which might have skewed my perception on it quite a bit.
I feel like that's almost certainly likely.
Towards the end of the release of the first run books, it had gotten to the point where we would buy 2 copies of every book because we didn't want to wait on the other to finish reading. So we would sit there and both start reading them at the same time.
My mom was reading them to my sister at the time, and when a new book would come out, she would say, "You have a day before I start reading this to your sister," because she's not going to wait longer than a day. And so I would get it, and I would read the book in a day, and then my sister would get it.
I was working at a bookstore for during the time that the first, I think, 5
I'm so sorry.
came out. So no, it's but
I bet that was really fun in some ways.
yeah. So I mean, I read the first one like once it had kind of blown up, and everybody's like, "This is the most amazing thing ever." And then after that point, I basically, as soon as we got them in, like as soon as I could get my hands on a copy, sometimes the day before the actual street date, I would sit down and read through it so that I didn't have to worry about people talking to me about these books.
What I remember reading some bits about them when they first came out, and they got shredded by critics at first.
I mean, the first couple books were not very good. As far if you're an adult critic,
they're made for
reading
kids.
these books,
Yeah.
they're made for kids, and they
Yep.
read like kids' books, and they're fine for kids' books. They're totally fine for that.
I actually think the first 2 books are better than the later books.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't really start liking the books until Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes.
Like, I thought the first 2 books were kind of crap that I just suffered through to get to the later books.
Yes.
I'm in the same boat.
Prisoner of Azkaban had the moment at the end where I, exclaimed out loud, "Oh, that's fucking bullshit." Because Hermione being given a device to turn back time so that she could attend more classes was just like snapping suspension of disbelief in a book that had was premised on really bending it.
Yeah,
So,
the time turner does.
I hate
open
time
all
travel
sorts of
on
questions.
principle, by the way. I feel like I need to mention this every single time it comes up. Time travel is stupid. It breaks stories. But when the first 3 books came out, I was the right age.
Yep.
Sure. I really liked book 1 and 2.
Well, and at least the way she did time travel doesn't. It's time travel that doesn't appear to actually change anything in the past.
Except it does. Like, Buckbeak was killed.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. He hit a freaking pumpkin.
We heard the axe. We did not see Buckbeak get killed.
Yeah, it's pretty explicit about that.
Yep.
There was the sound of an axe, and then Hagrid shouted. And then when we get back to that via time turner, Buckbeak's not there. The executioner, is irritated and chops a pumpkin, and Hagrid shouts in joy. She was very careful about this.
It's actually one of the few times, other than the justification for why you would give a teenager a time machine.
There is that.
It's actually one of the few time travel stories where I don't find 100 billion holes in it instantly. Mostly because it's it's a very light touch, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, it reminded me very much of in So You Want to Be a Wizard by Diane Duane. There's a time travel spell in that ends up accidentally shooting the characters back a little further than intended. And something that happened much, much earlier in the book that was not explained in any way at the time. It was just like, this thing happened. Well, now it's explained how and why it happened. Time is a closed loop.
Anyways, we should talk about something other than
Probably.
So another thing that's happening right now is the Steam sale.
Steam sale. Guard your wallets.
And I want to talk just briefly about the madness that is the Discovery Queue.
Discovery Queue is hilarious.
I love it.
It's been hilarious for like months now.
It's
but
like, yes.
the sales encourage people to actually use it. So
Yeah, if you use the queue during a sale, they give you a trading card, like up to 3 a day, and you can sell this trading cards for a few cents if you want to. So I mean, they're actually legitimately worth something. Or you can turn them into badges that are just goofy digital badges that you stick on your profile. That's what
which is mostly why we chase down the trading cards, as a way of saying we were mad people during the sale.
The only person I've ever heard that chases trading cards is you, Bill. Today was the first day I've heard anybody seriously be like, oh yeah, I trade.
Look, I have traded cards with both Ash and Thalen on many occasions in the past.
Like I won't spend money on cards unless it's money that I earned by selling cards. But I will absolutely trade cards to make badges, and why not?
We were like 2 days, 3 days into the sale, and I had a trade request from Thalen. So it's not just me. We're maybe secretive of our habit, but
Maybe.
I
guess I've traded some cards with Ash on occasion.
You have, yes.
But it never. I guess it never really registered. I guess I always figured you were like trying to get shit out of your inventory.
No, he was making badges.
That also happens, but usually it's because I'm making a badge.
So yeah, like I've used the discovery queue a lot over the years, and at this point, Steam has reached a point.
I think it's only been there for a year, Bill.
Really? No, it was before last summer sale, wasn't it?
I don't think it was before last summer sale.
Okay, I
Last
use
summer
it a
sale had the
lot.
minigame.
Apparently, I spin the die or roll the dice, and at this point, I have either vetoed or added stuff to wish list to where it is just utterly throwing up a shrug anytime it gives me something.
Yeah,
it literally says a message that says something to the equivalent of, just wanted to see if you would be interested in this.
Yeah.
I get a bunch of those.
Yeah, it tells you on each one, this product is in your discovery queue, and then gives you the reason. And like most of mine, it said just to see if you might be interested. And
sometimes it's because it's popular.
Of the answer is
Yeah,
no.
mine is
Fell 'em a
mostly
little
because
off.
it's popular.
Discovery You came around fall of 2014.
Okay, I thought it had been here for a while. Because I know they launched it with a sale of some sort. Like, here, come use our discovery queue and, get some money off things.
They've pushed it with every sale they've had since then, I think.
Yeah, they have.
Well, there's been a lot of frustration this time with... this is the second sale that's been a non-flash sale.
Good.
Thank goodness.
And I'm actually I like that. I like the fact that throughout the week I can decide, oh yeah, no, I'd really like to pick that up. But there are some people that miss the days of every 4 hours getting something at silly prices.
Those people can go to hell.
Yeah. Do they also miss not being able to do returns? Because that's why there's no flash sales.
Seriously.
I've never returned a game.
Quite frankly,
I feel like I've returned
as someone
one.
who, works for more than 4 hours at a time, flash sales are really stupid.
Oh, they totally are. Well, and the worst part about it was there was this entire logic tree of, if the game is not on one of these two things, wait. It's not worth buying yet.
Yeah, everything that's not a flash sale it's not going to get more expensive until the sale ends. So you might as well wait and see if it goes on flash sale.
I find that I use the sales the same way I always did, but I'm less annoyed by it.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly at this point, I look at the stuff on my wish list and see if any of it is cheap enough that I want to go ahead and pull the trigger.
I have super limited finances right now, and when there's flash sales, I'm more tempted. I'm also killing myself trying to look for the flash sales and catch them for the things that I want, and that's really stressful.
Yeah.
So it's much nicer to know these are what the prices are, and if I can afford it and I want it, then I should get it. If I have a reason to wait for a couple of days before I buy something, then that's okay. All of these are good things to me.
Yeah.
And I can actually consider and do some research on these games to see if they're really something I want.
There is a game on the sale now that Ash pointed out to me that I've wanted to play for a really long time and hit a price point that seemed entirely reasonable.
Which game?
Burnout Paradise?
Yeah.
I'm really hoping I can find some people, hint, to play this game with me.
The other big thing that I do during the sales is that's also the time when, if a game goes cheap enough, I totally pick it up for other people and gift it to them.
Yes. I don't do that as much for mostly money reasons at the moment, but I've had that habit.
Well, because
Bastion and Transistor in my inventory for this reason.
Well, and games like Risk of Rain, oftentimes during these sales go for ludicrously cheap amounts, and that game's amazing.
I still have a copy of Undertale in my inventory to give to somebody.
I've got a copy of Bad Rats. Would you like a copy of Bad Rats?
Ash
already beat you
gave
to
me a
that.
copy of Bad Rats, and I was like, yeah, why not? What is this game? And then
No,
I found out
you
that
shouldn't
it was...
install Bad Rats if somebody gives it to you.
What?
You shouldn't install Bad Rats if somebody gives it to you.
You just hold on to it and wait until you can do the same to someone else.
Somebody else.
No. I thought you were trying to give me an actual good game.
No.
No, that's not what that was.
No, that is not a good game.
Ash is much sneakier than I am.
Yeah, no, you just sent me a shower with your dad simulator, and I'm like, no. I can see what is going on.
You should actually play that game, by the way.
I should?
Yes. Because, well, the game is not Frog Fractions 2. It sure is pretending to be.
Which is why I sent it to you to begin with, I might add.
Okay, I will check it out.
Anyway, we were going to talk about the Discovery Queue.
Yeah. It's a cool concept, but the longer you use it, the weirder it gets.
And the more you realize how much utter garbage there is on Steam nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, that's a thing that happens.
Signal to noise is a thing.
Like,
Also,
Steam used to be pretty curated, back in the day. Like, it took some work to get your game on Steam. It doesn't seem like that's really the case anymore.
I think I'm sort of okay with it as it is now, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard to sort signal to noise, but...
Well, and you realize just how many clones of things there are. So it's starting to look a lot like the mobile market. Because the mobile market's been at this state for, 5 years. And now Steam is basically that state too.
Even then, they have, if you actually go to the App Store, at least on iOS, you get suggested things that probably aren't garbage. But if you try to search for something, good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
What I really like about it is that you get a lot of incredibly niche things that just wouldn't see the light of day normally.
Yeah,
but
that is true.
Is totally satisfying someone's player fantasy somewhere.
Yes, and there are some weird player fantasies out there.
I bet years ago, Danmaku Unlimited would not have hit Steam. This recent rush of Japanese games probably would not have hit Steam.
Yeah.
Oh. Job Simulator.
What?
So it just came up in my Discovery queue, which is part of my thing. It is Job Simulator. In a world where robots have replaced all human jobs, step into the Job Simulator to learn what it was like to job. It's a VR title.
So many VR titles.
Look, there are a goodly number of people who have been trying their entire lives to get VR to be a thing. It might this time.
Maybe this time will be different. Maybe.
If everybody doesn't decide that it's just going to be a way to try and sell us blocky, horrible games.
I really want someone who has access to VR to play Subnautica and tell me what they think about it, because I'm dying to know. So if any of our listeners have the chance to do that, please tell me.
If I can get a hold of a Vive or an Oculus, I will pick up Subnautica just to tell you.
I finally have a video card capable of running a Vive or an Oculus, but man, they're so expensive.
Bear Simulator.
Yeah.
It's so far out of my price range right now.
Bear
Simulator?
No, bear, as in be a bear.
Yeah, that's a Kickstarter game.
Yeah, being in animal games seem to be on the rise.
Those things have been a niche.
Showed up in my queue.
There was the MMO where you were a wolf for a while, and people loved that game.
I remember there was a game about being a mama badger that was extremely well reviewed.
I mean, a million years ago, I played the heck out of Sim Ant.
Sim Ant was great.
Man, Sim Ant was amazing. Sim Earth was not. Sim Ant was great.
No. My favorite of the Sim games is still probably Sim Tower.
Shelter is the name of the Badger game.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Shelter?
Oh, okay.
It's a game about being a mama badger and trying to save your little badger cubs.
Okay, because I just looked at a Steam Q game called Sheltered, which is a game about, being in a bunker after the, nuclear fallout. And I was like, wait, what game?
Sounds pretty different.
Very
different.
Yeah.
Are you a badger in a shelter?
I don't think so.
Post-nuclear badger simulator. There's a new game idea for you. So you should make that.
Don't.
I'm always sort of interested to see, because Steam also has a fairly significant review setup.
Does now, anyway. I guess the thing now is that it just reports on the sum total of the reviews.
Well,
it didn't
so
used to do that.
the best thing that it does, honestly, for me, especially on games that are still sort of in development, is they show you total reviews and recent reviews.
Yeah.
Because it is absolutely possible that one of these games gets significantly better over time.
Yeah.
Or goes completely off the rails.
And then there's
becomes
Master of
terrible.
Orion.
Ouch.
I was about to say, Master of Orion I saw had good overall reviews and terrible recent reviews.
Yeah, like, I don't know what happened to it, but the version I played was pretty great.
After you reported on that, they put in a version with espionage and a whole bunch of other stuff people seem to not like. I still have no idea what the sum total of that is.
I guess I should go play it and see if I still think it's good.
It's got a while. Still in development.
TIS 100 is an open-ending programming game by Zachtronics, the creators of Space Chem and Infinifactory, in which you rewrite corrupted code segments to repair the TIS 100 and unlock its secrets.
I've already got this.
Yeah, I gave it to you.
Yeah.
The assembly language programming game you never asked for.
No one asked for this game, but it's not terrible.
Yeah. It's if you actually enjoy coding, it's reasonably fun. It's very bare bones, and you're totally writing, stripped down assembly.
Stripped down assembly. Oh my goodness. Dealing with registers. I didn't want to deal with registers again.
Registers are great.
I didn't ask for this.
But, which
You're
also
welcome.
leads to the point, there are super niche games out there.
There are.
Yes, there are.
And there's
I've
also
been
a
playing
lot
one this
of...
week. Oh, it's great. Murray. Muri. It is like it's designed to be like a nostalgia for late 80s DOS games.
God.
Wow, this
It literally
is in fact
has
nostalgia
EGA
for late
graphics.
80s. Yeah, okay, I see what you mean now.
Yup.
You know what I don't have any of?
Nostalgia
Turns
for this
out-
era of game?
That, yeah.
I sadly
I kind of do.
I did too. It was
I-
very good.
I should, but don't.
Oh man, and PC speaker music and sound effects. That's awesome.
It hit all of the right notes for me. The story is also late 80s DOS game quality. In that
Saying
it is
a step above Mario, maybe?
it is utter nonsense.
It is an authentic 80s experience.
It really is.
So, that makes me think of Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Yes.
That was a different kind of 80s type of experience.
Oh,
Yes.
that is a game that's on sale that I meant to pick up.
Blood Dragon is amazing.
Yeah, that's a what we wish the 80s was like experience.
Rex Colt Power!
It's unrelentingly 80s.
But yes, Murray is actually a lot of fun. If you have that nostalgia, it's probably worth picking up at $2.
Yeah, honestly, I think in that nostalgia, I'd probably just buy some of the original games I played from GOG.
True, that's the thing that they still exist. And last I checked, they are also having a sale right now. Unless theirs ended, I'm not sure.
Steam Q just gave me a game, a dating sim where you're dating tanks who are women.
I blame
But they're
Grace
tanks.
because
What the hell?
ever since Bird Boyfriend, I have had tons of dating sim games in my queue.
I have
Okay.
finally
I've been playing
stopped.
Stellaris this week, so I get 4X games. Non-stop
I
4X
finally-
games and space games.
I finally gotten a more balanced queue that's not just Aerogame all day.
So man, that's another thing though. Like the military vehicle anthropomorphized as Japanese like moe girls. Because there is entire genres of anime now that is like
It is.
ships that are actually girls, like naval vessels, but they're girls.
I saw quite a number of figures from some of these animes when I was wandering Akihabara,
And
looking for things that were not that.
and I don't understand where this came from, but
I don't
It's-
even know.
it's a thing I have to deal with on my Crunchyroll stream now.
That's just reality now.
Mostly
live
said
here.
figures. Mostly when I saw said figures, they were sitting right next to a display of extremely realistic-looking airsoft guns. So, that's a thing.
This is the weirdest show we've ever recorded.
Really is.
I'm just gonna stop and acknowledge that fact. This is the weirdest show we've ever recorded.
And we recorded an entire show about Hatoful Boyfriend.
Exactly! Yeah. This is a whole new level, guys.
Now I found
It's
the
a
same
holiday
game.
weekend. We're all punchy.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is like, I thought we were reining things back in by going over to the Steam sale.
Yeah, no.
You were
But
wrong.
it's even gone further out of control.
So wrong.
So I'm looking at the topic list, and I'm wondering, dare I even talk about any of these? What's going to happen?
How bad could it be, right?
Okay, so Grace, it is time for your topic.
Oh, so, well, hopefully this won't go quite so far off the rails, and maybe I can just vent a little bit, and we can move on. I don't know, we'll see. But my topic is, and this is not news to anyone on this podcast, and it is probably not news to anyone listening to this podcast, but, playing MMOs is just really awful if you want to be a well-rounded gamer. And I guess this has just sort of been really dramatically hammered home to me lately because I've started playing console games again for the first time in a very long while, and sort of having things distracting me from just playing MMOs constantly, and even just being a part of this podcast and having games of the month and various things to make me try different games. But just for whatever reason, I really think it's having a current console and wanting to play it. I'm really struck by like how bad of a well-rounded gamer I have been for the last several years because I mostly play MMOs. And I don't feel good about that. I mean, I enjoy the MMOs that I play, but man, there is no time to play a lot of other games. And I remember being younger and playing tons of games and playing lots of different kinds of games. And I've sort of gotten very far away from that, and I've started playing, a shooter, and I really like it. How about that, And so anyway, that's sort of my rant about MMOs.
Yeah, this is why I'm not currently playing an MMO, and I keep wanting to get back into Final Fantasy XIV, but I also am kind of twitchy about that because I kind of like my time right now. I like being able to play other games.
And it's a bit of a trap also because, for instance, in my situation, money is tight, and honestly, MMOs are a really good bang for the buck, right? Like, you buy them once and you may or may not buy them, you may or may not pay a subscription, and there's a lot of stuff to do, right? Yeah. So a maximum of, a $50 expansion every couple years and $15 a month, and a minimum of $0 and $0 a month. And you can be, accessing a ton of content. And so that's really appealing when you're on a budget. But it may or may not actually be that satisfying.
That's a thing that it's one of the reasons why I get on my rants about the state of the MMO genre so often, is because I get a much more varied experience playing lots of different games. But when I'm playing an MMO with all of my friends, I'm playing a game with all of my friends. Whereas when I'm not doing that, I'm very rarely playing a game with all of my friends, and I miss them. But also, I'm getting the games themselves are more fun.
Well, it's sheer madness to do what I end up doing and playing multiple MMOs at the same time.
Yeah, you're just a crazy person.
But because of it, I make zero progress in anything else.
And it's really easy. I find it's really easy to fall into the trap of, I feel like I'm wasting my time playing a single player game when I could be progressing in an MMO.
And yeah, it's definitely a trap. But you know, like, I've recently rediscovered that satisfaction of finishing something, right? Like,
Yeah.
I played Ratchet and Clank and I loved it and I finished it for values of finished that, satisfied me. And, so I beat the game and then I beat it again and I got all the weapons and upgraded them. Like, I got the Rhino and, like, that's where I draw the line for finished. And it felt really good. And now I can set it down and move on to other things and I can go back to it. But, there's a sense of satisfaction of actually completing it. And you never get that from an MMO. You get satisfaction of accomplishing lots of various different goals you may have set for yourself, but it's never over.
Notably, that is also true of a lot of the games that I've been playing single player recently, and so I am like craving a sense of completion right now in something.
What sorts of games are you referring to, I guess?
I've been playing Stellaris and Cities Skylines. I guess you could technically beat Stellaris, but that sounds like crazy talk.
This is something that could happen in theory.
Which is actually not an end condition, just a win condition.
Yeah, and that win condition is ridiculous.
Yes.
Like, you don't win the game until well after you have mastered the universe. And City Skylines is something we'll talk in the City Skylines thing. But needless to say, right now I like things that have clear goals and things that I can accomplish. Which is actually why I'm installing Half-Life Source right now, because I figured I'd try playing through that game again. Also Final Fantasy V, although I just had the most miserable experience in that.
I think you are incorrect. There are more miserable experiences.
This is probably true.
Arcavius with only daggers is pretty miserable.
I've done it. There's way worse. Besides, at the end you get something that probably doesn't need to use daggers, right?
Well, I'm doing Chaos, so I got Red Mage.
Oh. See, they can use swords.
I don't know, like, anytime I play a single player game, though, I feel so disconnected.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a downside, but I've been feeling kind of disconnected in MMOs anyway, because my friends are all scattered. So
yeah, when everyone's playing the same thing, I can get into the MMO because then it's like a social thing. But holy shit, I just tamed a kangaroo.
Woot!
What?
I mean, I'm really looking forward to the point where, everyone kind of migrates back to Final Fantasy XIV again and, like, goes to try out all of the stuff that's been added since people were away, because I miss playing a game with a group of people instead of maybe one or two other people once every couple of weeks. But it's actually easy to feel even more disconnected, I think, in an MMO when you're stuck playing by yourself, even though there should be other people around.
Yeah. I feel like that's, for me, I don't feel that until I'm kind of at the end game, when it becomes apparent that anything meaningful I can do requires a group. Because, like, I've been running around in a variety of MMOs lately, sort of chasing something new and interesting. But those first few, like those first levels where you're still sort of like exploring the world and figuring out what's going on in the game, feel a lot less like disconnected. My big thing with Final Fantasy is that I love the storytelling and I love the themes, but I've played enough MMOs now, like enough newer ones, that aren't doing the same, like, hotbar combat thing, that it's really hard for me to go back. Because combat, like, I have a hard time staying awake in instances now.
I think there's a whole other problem, though, because like a lot of the games that you're talking about are also doing essentially the same thing. It's just a new kind of same thing. Like there's a lot of action combat MMOs that are on the market right now, and they're all kind of doing something really similar. It's just not traditional hotbar combat.
It's true, but like the moment, at least as far as I've gotten, the moment-to-moment combat is way more interesting.
And I think like games like Black Desert Online would be interesting too, but it's kind of like ArcheAge in a way that there are so many weird little systems that would take entire weekends to figure out how to do. There's a whaling system in that game. Like whaling is a trade skill, and you can go roam the ocean looking for whales to bring in and get resources off of.
I instantly dislike
To
this
do
game.
research.
Yeah. I'm instantly less interested in going and trying ArcheAge again.
Not ArcheAge.
That's Black Desert.
That's Black Desert Online.
Well, I tried Black Desert Online and definitely did not think much of that.
Yeah, but like, there's all these weird little things in that game that
Yeah.
I think to really play something like that, you would have to invest silly amounts of time in figuring out how all of them work.
Well, it's true of a lot of MMOs. Like,
I feel like ArcheAge and Black Desert Online take it to whole new levels, though.
it's fair. Like
The only game that I have ever played that is complicated in similar ways was EverQuest 2, but only after several years and several features added on top of features added.
Yeah, but isn't that the state we got Black Desert in?
pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, well, the same is true with ArcheAge. I mean,
Yeah.
when it launched here, it was in the 3.0 state in South Korea. Yeah, I'm not gonna to argue the merits of whaling. It's just a weird system to have in an MMO.
Yeah.
Like it just seems so bizarre to me that someone would build that into an MMO.
Gotta find your weird fucking niche.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I've been playing a decent chunk of this what's this called? Riders of Icarus.
Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, visually a gorgeous game. And its conceit seems to be tame and level up mounts, sort of Pokemon-ish style, and then ride around on them. But it's also got like a fairly fully realized, just regular ground combat game. I don't really know what this game is doing yet.
I enjoyed the bit of it I played.
I've been enjoying it. I've been
mean,
enjoying it
but
enough
I've only-
that even though I can't invert my mouse, I'm actually playing it.
I was not, like, at first I thought this was the dragon flying game, and that is not a player fantasy I necessarily have, but...
Dragon's Prophet?
What?
Like Dragon's Prophet or something?
Like Dragon's Prophet, yeah. Dragon's Prophet was not enough of a thing I cared about, because, like, I don't really care about taming dragons and riding them. But taming other kinds of animals as mounts, that's kind of cool. And having them fight with you, that's also kind of cool.
Yeah, like I said, I just tamed a kangaroo. I don't know why. It was just mostly because it was there. But now I can ride around on a kangaroo.
Trying to picture how that would work.
can
I
take
don't
a
know, man.
screenshot.
It must be a large kangaroo.
It's a pretty big kangaroo. Like,
No,
are you riding
he
on
rides
its
around in the
shoulders?
pouch. That
Does
would
this
actually be
require a
amazing.
special saddle?
I want Final Fantasy XIV to put in a kangaroo mount that lets Lalafels ride in the pouch. This should be a thing. As far as Final Fantasy XIV goes, I have failed miserably at trying to get more excited about that game, and it kind of makes me sad because I really want to be excited about it again.
I need people to be consistently playing it and suck me back into it, and then I will be happy with it, because it seems like there's a bunch of really cool stuff that's been added, and there's more cool stuff coming soon, but I can't get motivated to play that game without the sort of, I don't know, the desire to raid, and without an actual group, I don't have a desire to raid.
Yeah, I think the thing that will make me most interested in it is if somehow we can get the band back together.
I'm actually pretty excited about the new deep dungeon stuff. If for no other reason than because it's the first leveling content added to the game since it relaunched.
Yeah.
I am all about that thing. But
Wait, deep dungeon?
yes. It's basically a theoretically endless dungeon.
Wait. Did you say leveling content?
Yes. This is the first leveling content added to the game since the game came out.
As in, I can do this to level up.
I'm going to be taking my Black Mage through this thing.
I'm instantly more interested.
Yeah, like, that's me too.
Like, I didn't realize that was what we were talking about. I am instantly more interested. Also, if they ever add Red Mage to that game, I'll never play anything else, probably.
Yeah, that's not true. But the
Is the endless dungeon already there?
No, it's not out yet.
Yeah, next patch.
When's the next patch?
Either this week or next week.
Soon, TM?
Soon, TM.
Either this week or next week.
And as I found out, it really doesn't take terribly long to get caught up. I just had to get over my mental block and go do it, because I'm now at 205, and I was at 190 when I came back, so...
Like, this is a catch-up patch.
Yeah.
I like catch-up patches.
Well, and Void Arc is no longer on one item per week, so you can go in there like we did with Circus and get lots and lots of loot. Yep.
There's also the new one that actually haven't been in yet.
The Wiping City?
But the Wiping City? Yes.
I need to do that. I still haven't done final steps. So, like, the last bit of story stuff. There's still a couple other things I haven't done, too, that I would like to. But, I had a couple months of subscription, and it expired, actually, today. And I'll probably hold off on resubscribing until there's more people around.
When we were all playing it, it was the most excited I'd been in an MMO in ages, like, probably since the launch of WoW. But without everybody around, it's just, I don't know, it's not as enjoyable. And I realized I was one of the people that left at the beginning, so...
Yeah, to be fair to the game, it's that, like, we aren't around and our specific friends aren't around, but there's tons of people playing. It's not, I mean, the servers and everything seem to be doing just fine without me there.
Yeah, the game is really stable and releasing a lot of content. There's plenty of people playing.
Like, I think it's in a really good place. I just need more friends.
It's one of the reasons that I think I'm excited about this new patch with new leveling content is because I kind of know my one class inside and out, and it's not exciting to play anymore. But like,
leveling is dull as hell.
Leveling is painful.
Yeah.
I also, playing a bunch of other games, I really realize how not any of my player fantasies Final Fantasy is. I've kind of made it work, but...
You admittedly have some pretty niche player fantasies, though.
I sort of do. Like, I don't feel like they're that niche. I like to play mobile, fast strikers. Ideally with a touch of magic, but I'm not super picky about that.
And the ninja doesn't do it for you?
Not really, because the ninja has no stealth, or no meaningful stealth.
No real stealth.
And doesn't really have all that much mobility. I mean, I guess it has more mobility than other classes, but that's a really low bar.
I mean, alternatively, there's monk. Or
not really very mobile. Actually, notably less mobile than other classes. Except that...
I guess I'm not sure what you mean by mobile in this particular context.
I really like... for example, some of the most fun I've been having lately has been in this Riders of Icarus and in Blade and Soul, where I don't know if everyone can do this, but in Riders of Icarus, but in Blade and Soul, I have a class. The class I play can dodge all over the place and mostly avoid being hit by not being where the attack is coming from. Just ever. And I get all kinds of bonuses. I've got like 6 different dodges for different situations, and I can do all sorts of interesting dodgy things. And like, that's really, really satisfying.
and for the most part is not represented in any MMOs at all except for in kiting.
Except for what?
Except for in cases where you kite things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in WoW, I played a very move speed oriented rogue,
but when actually fighting someone, that didn't really come into it, except in PvP.
Also PvE. Look, move speed is one of the most important buffs you could get in PvE. But I also would like sprint and shadow step, and those are really significant to me. I really just want to play the Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
That's a super, super fun character to play, and I'm playing a bunch of MMOs that basically let me play that character, or have tried a bunch of MMOs that basically let me play that character. But I don't know.
I think it would have been interesting had they actually kept Ninja as tank, as it was in 11 unofficially.
I would have been interesting. I also like non-standard ways of doing standard things. But I do think Ninja's really fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what new classes they add over time, especially with new leveling content.
Yeah, at first I thought this was going to be a lot like the fractals from Guild Wars 2, where it's just like an endless random dungeon.
200 floors, random content.
200 floors.
Yes.
Wow.
Should be interesting nonetheless. I really like the 16-bit-ish images for the various classes in the UI for the dungeon.
Yeah, you can save your progress, and the save looks like the save files in FF5.
That's really funny.
Does it take anything special to save your progress, or is it just something that anybody can do?
Seems to be something anybody can do. I don't really have the full detail. We'll probably find out more when it actually comes out.
I will cheerfully jump in on that.
So I know we've run pretty long at this point. Kodra, I know you had a topic that you wanted to talk about, and it probably won't go super long. You wanted to talk about LARPing.
Yes. So, I had a friend bring up the fact that I typically play games to win. Like, I am very much a mechanical analyst. I try and, especially when I play board games, I don't typically play board games for the flavor. I'm trying to figure out how to optimize my chances at winning that game.
This makes it insanity to play some board games with you, FYI.
Sure. But the thing that he was pointing out is that it's very weird that I really, really get into LARPing. And I think what I love about LARPing is the mechanics of it are very simple, and the whole point, the goal, the objective, the mechanics themselves are all about telling a compelling story.
I really feel like it's super important to provide the context in which you are LARPing.
Sure.
Because your LARPing... I don't think your LARPing experience is indicative of, the greater LARPing community.
Okay, so when I LARP, I go to a convention where there is a, troupe that puts on LARPs, and they are always mostly self-contained, designed to run about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours long. And everyone is given a character at the start of the game that is the character that they are going to be for the duration of that LARP. And you are given a backstory about your character, maybe some motivations, maybe some goals that you're trying to achieve, maybe some insight about other characters, maybe some unique powers. For the most part, there aren't... what they're doing now, for the most part, is there aren't any stats, but you're given these little poker chips that you can spend to make something in the scene true. Sort of like in the Dresden tabletop RPG.
Okay.
And this allows you to, tell a really interesting story, and everyone's sort of just doing this improv. And you can get more resources by doing something particularly interesting, or making everyone laugh, or just generally being a great role player. And so you are rewarded for doing the things that make the story more interesting. And I like that the mechanics of the game are reinforcing the roleplay, which is what you're really focusing in on. And in some characters, there are actually, like, one of the characters I played, which is... So the group that I play with have some amusing... have a lot of WoW humor, as we've talked about it in their games. I was playing Fizzy Lightfoot Fitzgerald, who was a pilot of the Edmund Gordon, a spaceship that crash landed on this planet after being shot down, which I'm sure there's at least a person out there who got all of those references. But I was a character who's sung about tragic stories. And so I would go to people and try and get their tragic stories, and when I would sing about them I would get more of these resources. And it was a really fun game. We put it on. I thought I was completely incidental to the whole thing, but it turned out I was actually a ghost and didn't realize it, and I was sort of the figure that the climax surrounded. And it was a really cool game. But I like that it's a game where acting and role-playing and improv is the point, and the mechanics support that point. And that's really satisfying to me.
I feel it always sounds... I have another friend who does, murder mystery dinner games. Mm-hmm. Which basically sound like the same thing, which I don't usually think of as LARPing, although they kind of are by that sense. But it's very much the same thing. You're given a character, you've got some goal.
That sounds very similar.
They've got these prepackaged, they're basically these prepackaged things where you've got a host, you've got they're all basically variants on Clue, hey, you're all going to a dinner party, and oh no, someone gets murdered. Figure out who did it. Or maybe don't.
Yeah, this experience you're describing is nothing like the LARPing that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so what is the LARPing that you have experienced?
Vampires.
And werewolves.
Vampires.
So, in the early...
And also fairies.
About the time that Vampire got huge, they did this thing that was Mind's Eye Theater?
Yep, Mind's Eye Theater.
Yep, Mind's Eye Theater, which is the vampire LARP.
And that became the big vampire thing. The tabletop became secondary to the LARP.
Yes. Vampire as a tabletop game, or World of Darkness as a tabletop game, is actually less big, or for a while was less big than World of Darkness the LARP.
Oh, yes.
And usually what that was like a role-playing game. You create a character, and in the real world play with other people also playing characters that they've created. Come up with your own... You've got your own goals. You've got different groups of people all vying for different things.
And you've got a storyteller or storytellers running the thing who, put an overlying plot into it.
Yeah, there's people who are adjusting things to make plots happen, who are the storytellers.
But they're largely just there. They're largely there to keep the thing from falling off the rails.
From degenerating into a fist fight.
Yeah. I mean, because these things would oftentimes get close to fist fights.
To a great extent, your success at World of Darkness LARPing was dependent on how good you are at rock, paper, scissors.
At what?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, yeah. Resolution was rock, paper, scissors.
The method used to resolve all challenges.
Yeah, that sounds very different. Whereas, long campaigns versus contained one-shots.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is it was very much all long. I mean, people talk about playing for years.
Yeah.
And taking characters that they play in their local LARP, and going to conventions to play the same character in something there. Because they have an entire organization, the Camarilla, that's, built up to organize all of these and, keep things straight and everything.
So there would literally be a Prince of Tulsa, and that person controlled the other vampires in the area, or a Prince of Dallas, and when they went to other areas, they would either represent or whatever the group local.
Yeah, one friend of mine in particular was really involved with them. We would lovingly refer to him as this associate king of the vampire nerds.
But honestly, like, all of the other LARPs that I've experienced are very similar to that.
Yeah.
And what you always describe, Kodra, is what I think of as improv theater, or like the murder mystery nights, or very focused, very specific goals with a clear end point. And that's just not what I've ever seen when it comes to LARPing.
It's always interesting. It took me until you described what it was like to actually play one. Because when you first mentioned that you liked LARPing, I was very surprised because it seemed so not in your wheelhouse.
Yes. I would point out there is an ending. It is not a clear ending. It's always sort of like the GM's like, well, this game has run its course, let's go. And then the last thing everyone does is confessions, where you reveal who you were and what you were doing during the game.
So that never happens. That's not, there's no such end state.
That's counterproductive to the goals of the other kind of LARPing.
Yeah, it feels like that sounds like a party game that would be super fun, but it doesn't seem to have any correlation with what I think of as LARPing.
Yeah. When I think LARP, I think something that goes on, for months or even years, like regularly, like every weekend.
I always sort of figured it was the difference between like a campaign and a one-shot at tabletop.
I think it's more than that.
Yeah, I think it's a bigger gap than that. I think it's the difference between playing a board game and playing a tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
That said, if you're interested in this and you go to any of the Midwestern cons, you should check out Kettle of Fish Productions.
Yeah, those sound super fun.
They're really fun. I'm kind of bummed I'm not going to be at Gen Con because they're doing a Futurama LARP, which sounds amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I want to go to there.
Yeah, those sound super fun.
That is a thing that I would want to do. Yes, please.
The Mind's Eye Theater stuff is always a little bit too navel-gazy for my tastes.
Well, and, vampire has always attracted, a particular demographic.
I'm so sad.
That lends itself to, to people, having competitions as to who can outgoth each other.
Yeah. My introduction to Vampire the Masquerade was probably the best DM I've ever had in my life, and is the model for all of the DMing that I do, or a majority of it. And he ran one of the coolest tabletop games I've ever played in, and basically introduced me to Vampire. And I'm so sad that everyone else has run into the opposite experience, to the point where I can't even suggest running a vampire game without people, just rolling their eyes and sighing.
Well, don't get me wrong, I freaking love Vampire. It's just,
Yeah, my introduction to tabletop Vampire was also, it was a fantastic storyteller and an overall World of Darkness. So, we ended up playing Vampire and Werewolf and Mage, all set in the area that we really live in, and there wasn't any of this gothy stuff. It was getting those characters and running around trying to either save the world or manipulate things or whatever.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
And gothy things may happen, but that's not the point. The point is not to generate them. You're not creating a goth event engine.
Well, so back to the whole LARPing discussion. The other kind of LARPing, not the stuff you're doing, Kodra, I backed away from it because a lot of my friends that were super into it came dangerously close to losing themselves in it and ceasing to become themselves, or like ceasing to be the person that, you know, we all knew and becoming their character in the LARP. Like permanently becoming their character in the LARP.
I never ran into anything quite like that,
That's
I
good.
definitely have my own personal biases against LARPing.
If you go to a convention, if you go to a convention, you are interested in trying this, there's actually a number of troops that do the type of stuff I do. I know Elder Entertainment does it, which they mostly do slightly more serious Cthulhu LARPs, but they're always self-contained and typically very fun. And there's a couple of others that are always trying to be like, they're trying to tell a story. Like you can probably identify them based on the fact that they are a LARP that has a story description in their title, in their description, rather than like, come do this Boffer LARP with us, which is the other big thing at most of the cons.
Yeah, Boffer LARPs are the other ones that I'm familiar with.
I've never gotten into Amped Guard, but I know some people who are.
Well, it seems like we're starting to wind things down. Anybody else have any discussion points quickly before we close things up?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the more interesting shows. It kind of went all over the place. Anyway, hopefully you stuck through to this point, and if you did, good job. And we will see you next week, and hopefully you join us then as well. Good night.
Good night.
Goodbye.
See you.
Good night.
Good night.